Firstly, my name is Richard Holdsworth. I'm the CTO and co-founder of my project, XCAVATE. And before I go into what the project is, and even before that, why, I just want to pay homage to the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. I would class myself as very ordinary, I'm not special in any way. I would class myself as very real, and I'll come to that a little bit later. But one of my greatest achievements was graduating from the Polkadot Blockchain Academy, so thank you. And 50% of my team are alumni from the Blockchain Academy, so thank you. So let's go on to XCAVATE. So firstly, what is XCAVATE? What we're trying to achieve, if I start with a problem first, I think the world is very complex. It's I feel, quite unfair, and especially with young people wanting to buy their own property. I think it's 60% of 25 to 34-year-olds want to buy their own property. Back in 1997, 55% of young people of that age group, and I'm not part of that age group, unfortunately, they could buy their own property. But now it's below 35%, so 20% less people of that age group can now buy their own property. So that's a real problem. So what are we trying to do in terms of XCAVATE? Well, we believe that real estate should be affordable and accessible to everyone. Because in different parts of the world, they've got different problems, but we're from the UK, so we want to start in the UK first. So we're developing the industry standard in Web3 trustless tokenized real estate assets. What does that actually mean? Well, let's start with the problem. So currently, no easy way exists for the average person to buy a new build rental properties, because if they had the ability to have this as an asset, they can then leverage that to buy their own property. So the problem is that they would need a huge amount of capital to buy that property, and they would need trusted entities, third parties like banks and real estate agents who add fees, complexity, and delay the whole process. I mean, the average sale for a property is something like 16 weeks. So what are we trying to achieve with our solution? So XCAVATE, being a foundational protocol, it automates the investment process. What it does is, by fractionally changing the property from a single entity into fractions, it means there's a very small minimum investment for a low barrier to entry. The investors from anywhere in the world can invest in a matter of minutes. There's a trustless income, so each property becomes its own DAO, and it's owned and run by the token holders associated with that property. And they can easily list or relist their tokens to then realize those gains at a later point. So the actual platform itself, so we've built on top of the foundational protocol, we've built a marketplace which allows real estate developers to list a new build property directly without any intermediary. This means investors can buy direct from the developer, which means the more value is given back to the investor. An investor can just browse the platform, select the property, and buy whatever property they want. Obviously, that comes with a number of checks. So rather than us being a centralized entity that does that checking, we actually provide three elements. There's KY, A, B, and C. So firstly, we check the asset. So real estates are not all the same. So different real estate in different regions is different. Different real estate with different attributes is different. So an apartment, two-bed apartment in London is a lot more expensive than maybe one in Manchester or Birmingham in the UK. Other parts of the world are obviously different. So the first thing we do is we look at the digital identity of the person, the real estate developer, their company, the KYB, so they need to pass checks through the KILT protocol, as in they create a digital identity for themselves with credentials. So we verify those credentials to know that they are the owner of the asset in the beginning. And then what we do is we check the asset himself. Like two-bedroom apartment, the title deed, who owns the title deed? Is it the developer? We check the planning process. So has the planning process been followed? Planning permission been given? And the protocol also checks the price. So the developer might say this property is worth $300,000. But the protocol, through a very agile algorithm, will look at similar properties and say a lower band is this, an upper band is that. Does the property fit inside that band? If it does, then the property can be listed and supplied or sold through the platform to the investors. So how big's the market? Well, real estate obviously worldwide is pretty huge. I'm not going to go there because we're quite real people and we want to talk about real figures. So we're starting in the UK because my co-founder Alex, very real person, very real world person. He has a massive experience in real estate and also with regards to his network of real estate developers. So we're going to start there. So the real estate market in the UK, about 7.4 billion. So I mean, even that's a big number. So we're going to be quite realistic. So with the number of real estate developers that our network exists with, we can access over 360 properties, which is a very real number for the first 12 months. So roughly a property a day for a year. So each developer could overnight list the property, and that goes out to a global network of investors that then can purchase their tokens. What happens is the tokens aren't distributed to the investor straight away until all the tokens are sold. That then triggers an SPV, which is the legal entity that owns the property, to be created. And once that has happened, a lawyer is automatically appointed to represent the SPV on behalf of the token holders. The title deed is changed over, then the investors control the SPV. That is how it works, and then they get a percentage of the rental income based on the number of tokens they have. There's another part to this in terms of the letting agent. So we want this to be a very sort of low entry point, low maintenance investment for the investor. So properties are automatically allocated to a pre-approved letting agent who's gone through KYC and KYB. And then through a trustless system, the DAO, controlled by the token holders, then manages the property and any property decisions that the letting agent needs the DAO to operate under. And then the DAO receives in their treasury the income, less fees and less taxes. So it's a very clean system. It's very scalable, unlike a lot of our competitors. So if we look at the landscape, there's a huge number of Web 2 developers like like Rightmove and Zillow in the US. Massive, they're like 1 million users a day. So that's a huge market we can tap into, but they've got no Web3 existence. So that's an opportunity we see to help them come into the Web3 space. But the ones that are in the Web3 space at the moment, like Realty and Lofty, the problem that they have is how to scale, because they're very controlling with the properties that go onto their platform. And what we've done is we've made that we've not controlled that at all. So any developer that passes the protocol tests can list their property on our platform. And what we've done is created 99% of the value goes to the investor, and 1% goes back into the treasury of the XCAVATE protocol. We only have got here through our collaborations and partnerships. So Kilt is a provider of digital identity. They've partnered with Deloitte to have verifiable credentials, and our system would utilize that technology to make sure we know who is listing properties and we know who is buying properties. Tansy are a fantastic, a platform, a power chain on Polkadot to allow us to spin up a blockchain in minutes or hours, as opposed to going through the whole process of becoming a parachain. That is our eventual goal, and we will try and go through that process later on this year. Trust is a decentralized storage mechanism, so for each property, it will have its own bucket of information relating to that property in an IPFS, totally decentralized way. Accurast is a mobile, an Oracle-based mobile compute system, network. So that will allow us to create the SPV, so the legal entity, through an API in a trustless environment, and allow us to check on the property prices of the real-world assets. Polymec are a platform that allow us to raise funds in a regulatory way, and we are launching in the coming weeks on their platform. So those partnerships have been integral to our development. In terms of tokenomics, we would have a maximum of 100 million tokens. The tokens are called the XCAV token, and they will be utilized for fees, staking, bonding, governance, and rewards. We also are looking at other aspects, so the life cycle of real estate, from land acquisition to planning process, to the construction process, to the finished real estate, and onto the management of the real estate afterwards. And we can look at other areas, commercial real estate, university residents, social housing, all have their own problems that we can solve with our protocol. Our roadmap, we've gone through about 3/4 of the roadmap so far. We're just going to launch our Polymec fund round in the next couple of weeks, as I said. Decentralized Futures Grant, we've actually just qualified or evaluated the first milestone, and we've passed that. So we've got 2 more milestones to go. We're looking for an independent code audit in the next few weeks. The big one is regulation. So the FCA is the regulator in the UK. We're already in talks with them about, they've got an innovative pathway program that we're trying to get on. We're also looking at a sandbox environment that we can operate under with a restricted license, because there's 2 licenses that we would need to operate under. One is a collective investment scheme, and the other one is an exchange license for relisting the tokens later on. So we're going through that process at the moment. And then the longer term plan is to get our own licenses, and then for any other operator to operate under those licenses. The team, very experienced. I mean, I'm from a very engineering-based background. I spent 10 years at Coca-Cola building infrastructure, started my software programming life there when I was programming in the process room and improving the batch allocation. Alex, as I said, is very experienced in the real estate market. Torsten is our technical advisor, and he's co-founder of Pendulum. We've got 8 in total with our team, so you can go online to the website and look up the team. As I said, half of our team is PBA alumni in terms of developers. We've got a product designer, and we've got 2 full stack developers sorting out the front end. That's it. If anyone's got any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Don't be shy. It can be real estate, it can be technology, anything at all. Yeah?
Is XCAVATE real?
Is XCAVATE real? Very good question. It was born out of, I actually, if you go back a few years, one of my Web 2 clients, they told me about Bitcoin. And when I heard about Bitcoin, I didn't understand it. I thought there's no value, there's nothing tangible supporting it, but I was intrigued by the technology. At the same time, my sister became homeless. And that was quite an emotional roller coaster ride. One of her daughters actually was a filmmaker, and she won a Junior BAFTA award making a film about that experience. So those 2 things combined, that made me come up with the idea of XCAVATE. So in terms of real, it couldn't be any more real. We're dealing with real people, we're dealing with real assets, and we're dealing with real problems. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Thank you very much.